she's been so sympathetic about the BOEM issues,
Yeah.
and
Thank
she
you.
really.
So is this is
Well, but she can put,
yeah,
she
she needs to make the
she,
call.
she can, exactly,
Yeah.
that's exactly it. Hello.
Guess we're all here, ready to go, huh?
Okay, we're here.
Okay. Table. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. So we have 5 items on our work session. The first is the agenda review. Everybody's got the agenda and the rolling agenda in front of us. We have any question, maybe first off on our agenda this evening, anything? Not much on there. Commissioner Webb,
Yeah, I'd like us to find some time in the next few months to bring Crest in to talk about the work that they're doing, because they're doing a lot in the county. And there are a lot of projects, and I was actually thinking of asking them if they could release a few staff people to maybe put us on a bus or something.
and they're coming to us on August 21st, right?
Oh,
Is that gonna, I mean,
Yes,
can we
I think-
combine it? I mean, they're talking about goals. 16, 15. Maybe
oh,
we
yeah,
can
no.
extend it to talk a little bit.
Or bring them back again, because because that discussion is very important. And, but I would love to also have them bring in they're at a really important time right now. They're doing a lot. And a lot of it's here.
If it's okay, Chair, we can reach out to Denise and just coordinate a
Yeah.
time, just
Yeah.
to do a more broad update on
If-
what Chris.
I'd love to have them come twice, because it would probably be a long thing, because they're really doing a lot of things, and they have a lot of things that are kind of wrapping up, like the Netto landing.
I think the 21st is already on their calendar, so we'll try to find another
It's a
date.
little later,
Yeah,
you know,
we'll find something.
maybe in September. or something.
Well, I have a proposal. Because I like things that are nice and simple and don't trouble anybody's brain cells, right? We're going to talk tonight about the Commissioner Exchange Program.
Mhm.
So we'll have commissioners coming into Clatsop County from Wasco and Deschutes County. And if Crest is going to do an actual tour, if there's a possibility, if we could coordinate that tour so that we can have commissioners from outside Clatsop County, because the whole reason to do this is so that other commissioners around the state understand the issues facing us. And I appreciate what you're saying about Crest, because they do very important work, and it has a huge impact on everything else we do. So if we can integrate that, that might be a possibility.
Sure.
Okay,
Anything else, Commissioner Tierka?
I know we already have the Law Doc housing amendments on the 7th. Possibly, I don't see what Jay on the list, expanding upon that to include maybe some input on the FEMA buyout and HCP and the impacts. Because if you look at the implementation timelines, if the FEMA buyout is there implemented, if the HCP, costs are there, it makes some of our housing requirements unattainable. So I want to just I'd like to bring it to the forefront so we can just have it open to see, here's the implications of this, here are the implications of this on our housing. So
Well,
you
we
see
won't
how
have
they
the
all
HC
relate.
We won't have the HCB data by then.
No, but just the program as it is sitting, how it could potentially, if we don't have the FEMA buyout. They don't have the actual, final,
Well, but at least we have maps.
yeah, but then so it'll give us an idea of how that can impact our housing.
Well, and if I could piggyback on that one, because if Nate Stice from Regional Solutions could be involved in that, and Brett Estes from DLCD could be part of that. So that, again, we're communicating our concerns, our challenges, our resources, all of that to the people who can hopefully carry it forward and make a difference. Is that agreeable to you?
Yeah, I just think we need a forum to highlight the challenges.
Chair, I don't know if you want to speak about the FEMA buyout at all, but we were on a meeting
Yeah.
this afternoon and it was an agenda item that we were just going to talk about. Well, a non-agenda item that we were going to talk about real quickly is. I don't know if you want to go first, Chair.
No, go ahead.
So obviously with the interim requirements and the deadlines, there's a lot of concern. There was a meeting today that was convened by the coalition, the BIOP coalition, which is a growing coalition of cities, counties, private association entities, real estate
Yeah.
association, as well as home builders and many others who are just really concerned about the timelines and the lack of time to really have prudent planning going into what this all means. And there's some concerns about, you know, implications, and unknown implications given the timelines. And so one thing that we will want to talk to the board about soon is whether we want to join the coalition as they work through this. And there may be different discussions that come out of that, whether it's letters to the governor, whether it's potentially litigation. Again, it's not that folks don't want to protect endangered species, it's just how, it's so much of it right now, it's just how do we do it? And what's the timeframes and what's the regulatory structures? So we'll have to come back and have that conversation too. And I think it's gonna, I mean, DLCD is just getting involved in the FEMA buyout planning now because no one knew that this was gonna come down. They didn't know that this was gonna come down. Literally nobody has been involved from the state regarding the timelines that FEMA just thrust upon us. And so everybody's playing catch up right now. And so I think we can certainly try to get as broad of a table as we can to talk about it. But we're not going to know a lot more until July 31st, really, from FEMA, which is their first meeting that they're having with the public sector entities. You know, and they haven't even issued any of this publicly. And so residents don't know about this. So we can structure something. It'll probably be a little bit later. I think the biggest issue will be, or the question for the board will be, do we want to join the coalition? Which is a much easier discussion than what do we do next?
And I want to credit the development record we just walked in, well, actually has been very well versed in all for updating on everything. Asked three great questions during the meeting. Very helpful to have our community development director on the cutting edge. What this is, and yes, they don't have a model ordinance prepared yet, so nobody will see that until the 31st. They want
Next
to.
week.
They want to start
I
this.
don't know that we'll get the model ordinance by the 31st, Chair. We might, but come on up, Joe.
Yeah, yeah. Some of us.
That's why I say it. Yeah, so the meeting just wrapped up. There you go. And if they do decide to file for a preliminary injunction, they want to do that by October 1st. They think that the estimated cost of lawsuits at the low end is going to be between 200 and 250,000. At the high end, they're looking at probably 500,000. Gina Nickel has a meeting with the governor on August 6th. And so she said this is her first thing on her agenda.
One item on the agenda.
Yeah. I think probably we're both there for most everything else, but
Can you just, for the record and for people who weren't there, can you characterize the reason the FEMA buyout is of such concern and why our hair is all on fire from this?
yeah, so the reason it's a concern is because it will have significant impacts on how and what you can develop, or if you can develop in a floodplain. And we know that Clatsop County has several flood areas, including Miles Crossing, Jeffers Gardens. The city of Warrenton and Seaside especially will be very impacted by this. It impacts us because we know the state's doing a big push to create needed housing. And we just sat in on a meeting this morning about the Oregon Housing Needs Analysis and how they're going to distribute housing, quotas isn't quite the right word, but requirements to jurisdictions. And if you don't meet it, then you go into a enforcement process. So we have a lot of competing things pushing in on us, and it's expensive. The proposed changes either for us, if we take on the burden, or for the property owners who are gonna have to take on trying to prepare their own habitat assessment. I mean,
It's not rational. I mean, if that you're not able to put any impervious surface anywhere, even roads, streets that you want to expand or improve, they're in that floodplain. Westport Road, that would be impacted by this. There's a number of projects that would just be stopped. So this is something that we need to push back on strong. They know that probably litigation is coming. I think that that was the attitude from most
So
everyone.
was this meeting a meeting of the coalition?
yes.
Oh, because I haven't heard about a coalition. What?
It's been in,
Tillamook
I think
County.
since 2016, I think.
Oh, dates
Sarah
are-
Absher is and kind of a leader of
We
it.
talked about it at the
Yeah.
all
All elected officials.
All
Thank you, meeting.
we talked about it.
So, okay.
The other absurdity, I mean, to me, is even if the mapping is incorrect and wrong, they're trying to put the onus on the property owner to pay to prove that the state is wrong. And then there's no corrective action that the state won't say, oh, we made a mistake, reimburse, whatever, nothing.
Well, if FEMA does the math, then yeah, they don't
Yeah.
reimburse.
They don't reimburse, so it's all the onus on a property owner to prove that the mapping is incorrect.
So
to do
guilt
that,
They don't take
until proven
responsibility.
innocent, is that it?
Yeah,
Is that?
and there's no accountability, that the maps are improper.
it just blows my mind that they would want to put the burden on a landowner to create their own, basically a habitat conservation plan. Watching the state have to go through that process, and watching the Elliott Forest have to go through that process, and watching different entities go through that process, that's not a cheap, short, easy process. And to put that on an individual landowner of a couple acres, just so that they can build a barn is.
Well, I think, from my perspective, the biggest concern right now, because we've all known that this is in the works, but we didn't have any kind of implementation plan because we thought 2027 was kind of the time frame. Everything changed overnight. And without any early warning to the jurisdictions that are now straddled with trying to come up with very quick responses to this, none of which are gonna be palatable to the communities, and I just think it requires time and a lot more discussion with these entities that have to implement this, and that's the biggest surprise, is there was a commitment from FEMA not to do anything until 2027, basically. And so,
They
but what
promised it.
changed was litigation. There was some additional litigation, and so they, and not that required this change, but
Right.
they just chose that was the better path for them.
Just so
Unfortunately,
you're
it's the worst
litigation
path.
driving Conversation and not,
Science.
thank you.
They gave the assurance that this would go through NEPA review. That is what changed, is now they've
No, that's
decided
skipping it.
they don't need NEPA review, they're just gonna go ahead and put this in place. And that's what our biggest, I think they're vulnerable in the fact that they need to do that. You can't make it, you can't.
has
do
to go
it
through
with-
services
without
before
Any of
it's-
that, yeah.
Well,
Place.
it's, all of this is being done in the name of protecting endangered species. In the name of really more habitat conservation. So it's with a stated, I would say it's a noble concern. Because who wants to see species go extinct? Who wants to harm fishes or birds or any of that kind of thing? The way it's implemented and the knee-jerk response to litigation to basically hammer us into submission or to engage in another lawsuit. And all that does is make lawyers rich.
That's right.
It doesn't form good public policy. It's not good science. It's not good public policy. So I don't know if you're doing a straw poll, but I'll tell you, if there is a coalition, I think we should be in it.
I think what we can do is we can add it to the agenda, because this is the agenda portion
Yeah.
of it, and then.
Yeah.
I can either bring it up during the commissioner comments.
Yeah.
Get the approval of the rest of the board.
Tonight.
Yeah, I
I'd
think,
like to know more about the coalition. I can't support joining something that I just heard about.
I agree, but I think that it is urgent, that
Well,
we take action, so.
Next week.
I think we'll go ahead and bring it, I'll add it to the agenda just under my commissioner comments and then bring it to the discussion.
Wonderful.
Yeah, next week, August 1st is when this goes into effect. That's the notice we get.
Well, that's for a portion of it, but the big implementation measures, the three that we have to choose from, we have to make a decision and implement.
But you have to implement,
Yeah, that was a new.
you have to make a
It's not just
decision,
even a decision, it's.
and then you have to implement immediately, which is impossible.
Well,
Yes, and so that's an important, I think, thing is that. Like, even if we go through the model ordinance process, we have to go through our ordinance process. And we have to start implementing December 1st, and it would take us months to get through it, and during those months, we would actually not be in compliance. And they may request that we just have a moratorium in the meantime.
A building moratorium?
But it's not just building, it's even remodeling. Somebody can't replace their, what do you call
Oh,
it?
yeah.
Road work.
Anything.
So it's just not realistic given local processes and ordinances and. And so,
Luba appeals.
Luba, yeah, all the different levels.
Just shut up.
Okay, Commissioner, thanks. Yeah.
yeah, I just want to make note that I feel like Clatsop County is shouldering the burden for the Threatened and Endangered Species Act for now the nation, when we're talking about how, you know, we're shouldering the burden of the HCP. I mean, the majority of the burden for the HCP. And so now we're trying to pivot at the state level for that. Now we're gonna be shouldering the burden for the FEMA buyout. But now it's gonna be as almost a state as a whole. It's gonna be the whole coastal region that's gonna be shouldering that burden. And I just really want to express that I would like us to support our fellow counties in this moment, mainly because they're coming out with fire maps now. Those fire maps really don't impact us, but they're gonna be impacting the rest of the state and their insurance and their
That's the big issue.
the livability, I think, for our state and for our community members is at question now. Like, how livable are our insurance rates going to be moving forward? As we shoulder all of these burdens, and we're not receiving any assistance federally or from the state yet. Like, the state is in a holding pattern on the HCP. We're still not receiving any alleviation. Now we have this, and so I think we need to support each other in other counties with that coalition idea.
This is strictly a Northwest issue. They're not rolling this out in Florida and Texas.
No,
I was
No.
gonna say seriously?
No, they're not.
No.
Just us,
Just
we're
us.
lucky.
They're not.
What do you mean by the Northwest? I mean,
Because Region 10 is the
it's
first to
Region
go
10.
first.
yeah,
I see.
And in talking with
we're the guinea pigs.
Molly Lawrence, who's with Van Ness Feldman, who's the attorney, she'll say too, that they're not gonna be doing this down in southern parts of the state or part of the country. Because they won't go for it. It's gonna be the Northwest region that's gonna be the guinea pig for it.
I
We can
think
talk more in detail about this another time.
There
Do
is
you have
a
anything?
meeting, July 31st that I'll be attending with FEMA. That's when we're hoping they roll out the model ordinance, but I'll have more information after that.
Yes.
And we
Thank you
could
so much.
do a brief email, like update or a brief email, like synopsis of what occurred. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else on the agenda? We
Well, that was pretty fun.
went for a long ride on that.
We did. That was a big review.
Okay.
Bring the movie down, kid.
Okay, next is economic opportunities analysis update.
I've got
Planning
I've got
manager.
a quick presentation, if we can,
It's a video?
no,
Uh,
but,
Okay,
wait,
powerful.
you may be surprised, you never know, you never know.
Is there
how-
animation? No. All right.
Maybe there is,
Oh, I
okay,
won't- I
all
won't watch it. then.
right. All right, I'm assuming, oh yeah, we gotta get it to the presentation mode, there we go, all right. Welcome, everyone, we're gonna do a very quick abbreviated version of this. All right, let's talk about public participation. First thing, after our last discussion, we went to work with Public Affairs. Public Affairs was very helpful in putting together a questionnaire that we have posted, and we've started to receive response back from various sources. I mean, we're not tracking exactly who it is. It could be all sorts of interesting people, but we're getting feedback. And I think that will help guide us as we move forward with this. We've created a press packet that it has been sent out. I did a very charming interview with KMUN, right? It was charming. Yeah, thank you. All right, it was. Thank you. All right. It was? I was, sorry. The question results and additional information will be presented to the Technical Advisory Committee in August. So we have 2 upcoming TAC meetings or Technical Advisory Committee meetings, and you will all get invites to them. The first one is August 15th. We expect to do the finalized buildable lands inventory, which is going to show very little land for employment that is not zoned farm or farm or forest. In our county, farm and forest is an employment land. And so it's a little bit different. And so the state looks at employment lands as industrial and commercial. And so that's a little different focus. And that's one of the reasons why writing this in-house has been a good thing, because we're able to focus on our specific needs. I'm going to talk a little bit about some Oregon State University research, and we're going to talk about the initial goal at our next meeting. In September, we're going to talk about healthcare. And I'm going to talk about the term economic clusters in just a minute here. Healthcare is one of them. And we want to focus on the fact that we have 2 successful healthcare systems in our area, and we want to lift up those facilities and the ancillary service facilities that go with them. And so we'll talk about the clusters in just a moment here. I just wanted to give you a couple of quick statistics. I sent you some in the packet. The first one is non-farm employment over the last 15 years. The blue line is the state of Oregon. This is a rate of employment. The black line is Clatsop County. So you can see that Clatsop County is a more volatile employment area than the state of Oregon. And in fact, the state of Oregon is one of the most volatile states in terms of employment rates. And we happen to be one of the most volatile counties in one of the most volatile states. And so we have that. You understand that. It's
Okay, but excuse me, as
Yeah.
an economist, I think I can address that.
yes,
We have heavy tourists
tourism,
and
fishing,
is
forestry.
always-
Yeah,
and season, because it's very seasonal.
it is.
a
Absolutely.
season.
And that's
So that's not-
getting to the point.
That's
Not a
been-
bad thing,
No, it's been one of our strengths, actually.
but it is one of those things that
It's
you
also
recognize.
reflected in why it's volatile.
Yeah, it is. It does. Our unemployment rate right now is at 3.9%. Even as of June, we are lower than the state of Oregon average. And we are significantly lower than Columbia County. I had another slide up here, but I took it out. It was average age, and we're old, but we're not as old as Tillamook. So just so you know, we're not as old as Tillamook County. All right. I wanted to talk about living wage jobs because we focused a little bit on that at our last discussion. This is a report done by MIT that has analyzed what they term living wages for every county in the United States. So this chart is tough to see, but the number of adults are working, 1 or 2, and the number of children. So for instance, if you are a single parent with a single child, living wage jobs is defined as $37.84 an hour for like a 2,000-hour job.
So is that a national?
This is, no,
State-
this is Clatsop County. This is, so if there are 2 adults working with 2 kids, each adult would need to make $26.79 to be a living wage. This is the term living wage. And so I want us to have an understanding of when we talk about that, it's not necessarily what we would expect, right? So that number is stuff that's used, each county has a rate. Ours is that.
That's hard to swallow because I know the majority of our county does not make that.
Correct.
Like, that's tough.
It is, it's a little bit of a shock value, but I want
to say something else.
it is that too, maybe.
Well, there's a lot of words in my head, but
Yeah.
Okay, but that's a stable wage on an annualized basis, right?
Yes, correct.
Because you have to work full-time at that wage
Yes,
to reach
and
that
our
standard.
seasonal employees don't do
That-
that.
No.
That's
Another,
seasonality.
that's another.
yeah, so this is, it is a tough one, but I want to put it out there, it is a statistic. Statistics are interesting. They tell a story, but you can manipulate statistics. All right, now, this one, my best friend at the state right now is Sean Barrick. He's the state economist for our area. And he's helped me with
Good.
this. And this is jobs that are expected to grow. The dark blue line is the average for our county. They're expecting over the next 10 years, we'll have a 9% increase in the number of jobs in our county. That's what they're saying for the county. This is not region, this is actually the county. And our area of growth, everything above that 9% is the light blue. So healthcare support, personal care, computer, all the ones at the top, they're growing faster than average. Okay, the ones at the bottom are growing slower than average growth. Okay, that doesn't mean there isn't growth or we're losing jobs. It's just that they're not growing as fast as other jobs. Again, statistics are kind of tough. Now, what I wanted to show you is the fastest growing jobs are not living wage jobs. So if you look at those wages, they're at $19 an hour and $18 an hour. They're growing the fastest in our region, but they're not the living wage jobs. And it's statistics, and the state has confirmed my analysis here. Here's another one: food preparation. That's processing and selling, and that's McDonald's, and that's, you know, the servers and so forth as well. But also building and grounds cleanings. Those are people out working outside in our yard. We have growth in other areas that are living wage jobs, all over the board, including construction, healthcare practitioners, community service, math and science jobs. All of those areas are growing faster than average and do have living wage jobs. But the ones that are growing the fastest aren't necessarily the ones that are going to be paying the most. So, statistics again. So I wanted to get this to you, and I can cut the whole thing a little short if I need to. But these are kind of the basic premises that we're presenting to the Technical Advisory Committee. And I wanted to lay them out for you, get your feedback before they go out to the TAC and review as well. It's just kind of an opportunity for you to give your thoughts. Job training investment programs will need to bridge the gap between future jobs and employees. We need to be able to train people for the next set of jobs. That doesn't mean our jobs are going away, they're evolving. And I think that's the whole focus of this from an economic standpoint, is our job systems are going to be changing. The housing crisis. I spent an afternoon in a housing meeting, and economic growth is being inhibited by the lack of housing and housing issues. And HCP and FEMA buyout, all of that, there's an intersection that's happening that we need to be preparing for here. Oregon State University put out a wonderful forum or report last fall on Oregon's blue economy. I like to call it the marine economy. But there is a huge potential here, and Clatsop County is uniquely positioned to potentially capitalize on that for a couple of reasons. I don't want to use the term blue economy because it's really trendy, but we have a history of a marine economy, which has some new potential here. This blue economy is focused on things that are derived from water. Jobs are derived from water, recreation is derived from water, food is derived from water, opportunity can be derived from water. And so that's kind of the basis of that concept. Did it go? Is it stuck? Can you forward it on? There we go. Okay. Rural employment land base is not going to change. We are not going to see any dramatic changes in state policy for the foreseeable future in terms of employment lands. We need to use the employment lands we have effectively and efficiently. Don't waste them. County population is going to continue to grow steadily, mostly due to in-migration. The actual birth rate is dropping in our area as we age. All over the world, exactly. And it's happening here. But the demographics are different. They're not coming here for jobs, they're coming here because of recreation, the ocean. There's a different reason they're coming. And I wanted to throw this up there. Are there other things that you want me to bring to the TAC that should be kind of the stepping stones or the basis for what we're talking about? These are kind of our initial thoughts on this. You don't have to answer me now, but as we go through the next month and when we meet If you have things that you think should be the premise or the basis, please let me know, and I'd like to present that at the TAC meeting as well. Okay, growth clusters. This is some analysis that was done by Johnson Economics, and they analyze businesses that are already located here and resources that are located here and the number of jobs that are located here to determine where job growth is going to happen, where mature industries exist, and where things are emerging. Those are all positive. They also had one that was declining. I'm not going to focus on the negatives. I want to focus on the positive, the growth areas.
Well, but we have to know what the negatives are.
We will. Go ahead, Helen.
So I'm just looking at this list and I see 3 on this list that would actually be a living wage opportunity
Yep.
and the rest are.
Potentially, yes.
And so how do we, I don't know, micromanage the list so that we can foster living wage jobs?
There's another premise I come to this story with is that we're not going to create the jobs.
No.
We need to create the place where jobs can be created.
Right, the location.
And so it's going to be what policies we set that encourage the types of businesses that will provide living wage jobs.
Yeah.
What rules do we establish? What rules do we relax where we can that entice those businesses and entrepreneurs to come to our area? There's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of reason Astoria, Seastate are here because of resources. And so we need to find ways to capitalize on that. But your point is very well taken. And so I just highlighted one, and it could be a combination of any of these. These are areas that are predicted by the state to be growth areas in employment in Northwest Oregon. And we already have some of the pieces to that puzzle. So I don't want to go out and recreate things, but if there's something that we need to coordinate there or support there, maybe there's something that could be done in that economic cluster.
I have a different question.
Okay.
When we're looking at the places where people will live, not necessarily where they'll work,
Mhm.
but where they will live, are we looking at dispersing the population throughout the county, or are we looking still at focusing it in cities? Because I think about the buildable lands issue. I think about, hey, we got a floodplain now. I mean, where's the affordable housing? And it's in the floodplain primarily.
The two things about that, the state planning laws are not going to flex to the point where we would see any dramatic changes to how zoning is established in our county and managed in our county. The second part about that, and I'm gonna disagree but agree, we've always had a floodplain. Just how we manage it is being forced to change at this point in time.
No, not enormously. Not even, we've always had floodplain ordinances
Right.
that we've had to meet. There's not a lot in the new regulations that I just spent a whole bunch of hours on. So I think I'm sorry to be argumentative about this issue, but it's just that we have long before there was SB 100 in this state, we had already developed in the floodplain.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
so there are a lot of things like that we just haven't, we haven't gone after.
What,
But the other issue that I think is important is, yes, concentrating or at least being very aware of living wage jobs is very, very important. But it's also true that not every individual employee needs to be paid living wage jobs because of the household that they're in. And the fact is that we have a great need for people to take care of the elderly, for people to do childcare that is not, that can be attendant to a business that is paying somebody a living wage job. So to me, too much attention on the focus. It doesn't, because of the late age of our population is nothing like Portland's. I mean, we have far more elderly people than Multnomah County does. Unfortunately, we don't have as many children, but we need to take a look at where we are providing this training. We don't have enough CTE programs. I just found out that Astoria used to have a culinary school in the high school. Tongue Point took it away. I have been walking Commercial Avenue, talking to restaurant owners, asking them about how they're getting their employees, what happened when Tongue Point closed down, et cetera. And the consensus is, and we need a certain level of training. You can't take somebody who's a new high school graduate and just put them in a kitchen and expect them not to get into trouble.
Yep.
So to me, it's the diversity. That's
Yep.
a healthy economy is always diverse. That's the best kind of economy to have.
Yep.
So it's not just so-called living wage jobs.
But I think we're growing in all those other areas. It's living wage jobs, are the ones that are not growing. And I think my goal, I think most of our goal is to grow the living wage jobs.
Well, I think that would be a huge mistake.
Well,
Because what's happening is that our high school graduates are leaving because we're not.
Because they
giving
don't have
them-
living wage
They
jobs.
don't have opportunity.
Because high school, an 18-year-old person does not need a so-called living wage jobs. We've never in our economy, I know a little something about this subject, I'm sorry. But I can tell you that when you look at employment and the age of the population, not everybody needs the same level of employment. Not everybody needs that. A high school kid, who's with a welding degree is gonna do better than a high school kid with absolutely no experience. We're hearing from
That is
all.
living wage job. A welding certificate is a living wage job.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, so
But
focus on the living wage and diversity.
Let's move forward
Just
here.
a couple other things. What you're saying, Commissioner Webb, are things that we're still talking about at the TAC. So, yeah. Okay, mature clusters. Food manufacturing is still projected to be a growth industry. And that has some living wage jobs, some seasonal jobs, and some permanent jobs. So it's a mix. Professional, scientific, and technical services. This is something that we don't have as much skin in the game right now. But this is an area where I think there is a huge opportunity for us because of research associated, and I'm going to say it, the blue economy, the marine economy. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that as we move forward here. Industry clusters, we have them. We already have them in our community. We need to find ways to support them. But this is not the only part of food processing. This could be part of a food cluster.
I'm all for this page.
Okay, but wait, there's more. There's this one too. There's healthcare. So you
Hey,
gotta,
I'm for this one.
I bet you are. So, but we have a huge amount of pieces to this puzzle. And so there are things that we can do to lift this up. Now, I can, there we go. Oh, go, you want to say something?
So beer slide. Beer slide.
Yeah.
I think what we could do to help lift this up is our bio
Digester,
digestive,
yeah.
yeah. And so pushing stuff like that forward would help lift this industry up.
This particular one, every food processing industry wreaks havoc on infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so if we can talk about ways that we can lobby for, promote, new technology in this area, I think that would go a long way, because I think the biodigester could be part of the whole process here. Healthcare, this is the one that I wanted to kind of lift up for you the concept here. The blue economy talked about economic activity that depends on the ocean, shorelines, rivers, and Oregon is a little bit late to the game in this. The talk of the blue economy has been going on for at least 10 years. And of the 30 states that have shoreline on the oceans, Oregon ranks number 22 in terms of economic benefit from that ocean. Okay, there's a huge opportunity for us to capitalize on that. Oregon State University last fall put together a fairly extensive report on growth industries. And one of them they talked about is this blue economy. It is food processing, it is tourism, it is research, it is job training programs associated with what sits out there and what sits out there. Go ahead.
So when I was in college,
Yep.
the so-called blue economy, they didn't have a label for that,
Right.
but
It was called American.
the issue was that it was often associated with it being a dirty economy or a, not an environmentally friendly economy. So how do we split leap that narrative, I guess?
That's a great way to put it.
And change the narrative so that we can foster a solid blue economy, because I feel like it's great, we have the ocean, it's great, let's use it, but there's a negative connotation associated with economy on the ocean.
Yes, you are correct. Seattle, San Diego, and Los Angeles have created a blue business incubator where they have brought in the universities from their region and businesses that basically earn money and income off of the water and students, and they've created a space where there's a cross section. And the San Diego example is one that I want to lift up because they've got two pretty good examples of some business opportunities that have come out of it. One is they brought a rope design from New Zealand to grow kelp. And they have basically this new design of rope has created a kelp market that they're testing in San Diego Bay, that they have researched and done basically work on it in this incubator. The second one, also in San Diego, is they had a company from Israel that brought over a new type of riprap, a concrete riprap that is designed to allow the marine life to grow on it. And they're testing it in San Diego Bay. They're designing, creating, using research and building it there to be used and tested in the bay. There's no reason we can't have a classic-sized version of that.
Correct.
So this is another one of those things that I think that are starting to come to the top. That doesn't mean we're going to ignore the other things, but I just want to at least lay some of these things out there for you.
I think that it worries me because then we have the wind energy and offshore turbine discussion, and I wouldn't want us to potentially start something amazing, because both of those, seafood farming and sea farming has been around forever.
Yes.
But I wouldn't want us to then invest in something to have it taken away from us again due to an environmental regulation or something impacting us again. We're just very.
Well, nobody's looking for wind development on the North Coast.
I think though, as time
I-
goes, I have 3 other items that.
So I'm gonna end here. Are here, ready? Boom. This is the fun part. I'm just gonna tell you that there are some questions. Questions are very quickly, what are our advantages and opportunities? I want to approach this from our asset base. What are some of the other clusters? As you think about this, are there other clusters that we should be focusing together? The construction one I didn't get to, but construction and timber kind of go hand in hand, and what can we do in that area? The marine economy, Oregon State University, I met with the food resource group here. They're all over it. I'm meeting with the department chair next week. So OSU wants to see how they can invest in something like that. So that may be something that's coming out of it. And I want you to be thinking about what is our role, because the county doesn't normally have a major role in economic development. But maybe there is a role, and if we come together and think about that, there could be. How can we facilitate other people making economic development happen? So that was it.
Yeah, this is all good stuff, Kate. Thank you for all your hard
Could you
work.
send us out?
I will send that to you. Yes, absolutely.
And
I will.
what I would
Yeah.
encourage the board is to reach out to Jay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's an
sorry about that.
opportunity to
No, it's fine.
provide answers to these questions
Yep.
directly to Jay.
Yep, I will send it all. Thank you very much. for your
Thank
time.
you
Yep.
very much. Next, Human Services Advisory Council membership recommendation, Assistant County Manager Monica Steele.
Hi, I want to leave plenty of time for your last 2 items. So the HSAC committee is a 9-member committee, and currently there are 5 people who are serving. We called for applications early 2024, and there are a total of 7 vacancies to fill. And so we are proposing to you 3 current members that have applied for reappointment and would like to continue to serve. And then there are 4 additional new applicants that would like to be appointed, and the HSAC committee is recommending the three returning, as well as Miranda Robinson, Linda Whitney, Amber Bowman, and Kristen Bergathon. And all of these appointments, all 7 of them, would serve through February of 2027.
Any questions?
No?
Okay, great. This will be brought back.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Monica.
No,
Next, psilocybin regulations 2024. Page 32. Then Anthony,
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm having issues with my camera. Hopefully you guys remember what I look like.
Yeah. It's etched in my mind.
Hopefully not a bad thing. I also will try to be pretty brief here. This is a continuation of a work session which was held on June 5th. During that work session, there was several board members absent. The board members that were in attendance were unable to come to consensus on how to move forward. As a reminder, this discussion is to see if the Board of Commissioners will refer a permanent moratorium to Clatsop County voters concerning psilocybin, the manufacturing, processing, and distribution of it. I also just want to point out real quick that there's kind of, even though it's the same issue, there's kind of 2 different paths we're going down. The community development is working on time, place, and manner regulations. This, although it's the same issue, is kind of a separate one. We're just trying to see if we're going to put it back on the ballot for the citizens to vote on to see if they're going to move forward with the moratorium.
Thank you, County Council. I know we've all kind of talked about this offline. I know what people are feeling. Well, I think everybody's had this on their mind about what direction we want to go. Do we put this on the ballot, or do we want to actually try to impose and create some time, place, and manner restrictions? Commissioner Banks?
I mean, a majority of our lands and a majority of our districts, our farm forest, they're not zoned properly for an opening of a psilocybin business. In the farming realm, like, are we gonna be wanting to place this type of burden on our small water districts that are already struggling? Because of the water usage. I don't know enough about the farming practices of, I do know mushroom farming, regular mushrooms is a high water usage. I don't know about bees, like, I have not researched this, so I don't know, but I'm hesitant because of, would this increase our water usage in our rural communities that are already struggling? I mean, Napa water is fine, but our neighbor Swenson water is not. And so is this a burden that we want to put on our small districts for them to say yes or no to a farming operation? Or do we just go the route of a moratorium on growing them in the county? Because we're zoned rural, and so they're not able to open a business. They could open a business in any of the cities under the city regulations. But I'm just trying to stay in my lane as much as possible, or is this something that we are going to ask for a full moratorium on potentially growing it in the county? Coming from a farming background, that makes my skin itch a little bit because I don't like putting rules and regulations on farmers. But I am also recognizing the issue that our small districts are in, which is they are under volunteer, like, there's a lack of volunteers. We have a district struggling currently in several of our communities. And so is this something that, do we just offload and say, so those are my concerns. I just wanted to verbalize my concerns.
And as the county council outlined, there's 3 kind of options for us: develop time, place, and manner that are moderate restrictions, develop restrictive restrictions that are time, place, and manner, and then propose a permanent moratorium to the voters. And I would not be in favor of going back to the voters, to be quite honest with you. I think this is the opportunity for us to develop some time, place, and manner restrictions.
Well, we just heard about economic opportunity. And for me, this is a growth industry. I know you had concerns about federal regulations and medicinal usage. For me, this is a therapeutic issue PTSD victims use it. End of life, people heading out, what do I want to say, the last exit are using this to mitigate trauma. And in terms of supporting the development of a profitable business, I'd be in favor, not of returning it to the voters. I don't want to see us, the question in my mind is restrictive or moderate time, place, and manner, because I want to see people be able to develop new and creative and effective uses to deal with trauma and to experience the economic growth that's possible, because people are paying a lot of money to come and do this. I'd rather see it more widely for veterans, for example, who are often subject to PTSD, but to have a way to go forward that we're managing this industry.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Banks, then Commissioner Webber, yes.
I would lean towards the more restrictive. I agree. I wouldn't want to push it back on the voters. The voters already voted. So, now granted, the medicinal uses, like that's not part of our conversation. That's something for the city. The cities are going to be talking about that because that's where this business type would be housed. We are looking at more of the farming side. Because that's really the only type of business that would be available for our zoning. If I'm correct, I think I'm correct, but with our rural farm forest zoning, we're looking at the farming aspect of it and whether or not what type of restrictions that we would place on the growth of a potential farm doing it.
Commissioner Webb, did you have anything you wanted to add on this?
Well, I'm very conflicted because of the lack of research. You know, I mean, I just don't feel this is a major economic opportunity for us. And I don't know anything about psilocybin farming. What I know is that when we legalized marijuana farming, we greatly expanded the growth market. So if there's an opportunity to do that here, I'd love to see us be able to do it. I definitely don't want to go back to the voters. As far as I'm concerned, they've spoken. And so it's up to us to represent. I would have loved to have sat down with the cities all together and come up with a strategy. But
I think the cities are all over the map, so there's not consensus with the cities on how they are approaching that. I did reach out, to some of the cities. Astoria still is undetermined from what I heard back. I think Warrenton's looking at time, place, and manner. Cannon Peach is also looking at time, place, and manner. I'm not sure about Gearhart, and Seaside is looking at ballot potentially in the fall. So, but those are all still not definitive. Everybody's talking about it because we all have deadlines that we're working through. And obviously the biggest deadline for us is just making a decision about ballot or not. Once we start working through the time, place, and manner, there'll be an opportunity to really then hone in between restrictive and moderate, and where does the board feel most comfortable as we learn more about it, as we develop them. So
Just to verbalize, when marijuana was legalized, it did put some small water districts under the gun in Southern Oregon and across the state. And so as much as I want economic growth, I don't want it to be on the shoulders of a small taxing district who is underfunded and, they're already struggling with their infrastructure. And so I'm leaning towards the most restrictive, just in reference to what does our infrastructure, what could it support in a farming operation as such? And, and leaving it up to the cities on whether or not they want it sold, or I'm not even sure it's been established what it can happen in these types of environments.
Well, I think it can. I mean, because for instance, the sale, it's not going to be like marijuana. It's not going to be an over-the-counter sale. So it's going to have to happen. The sale when it happens, is gonna happen from a therapist's office.
Right, and we won't have therapist office in farm forest zoning.
Yeah,
Is
but
that-
it has to be.
Could we
It
possibly,
has to be.
So,
I'm sorry, we have a lot.
hold on, one at a time, please. So who was talking?
I want to hear from
Yeah, Commissioner
Kyoka
Perry.
because
Well, I say, it can't be prescribed by a professional, so
No.
it's not, therapy it's not a medical therapy. It's a personal therapy,
But it has
it's
to
a
be.
recreational therapy, it's not a medicinal therapy,
I
that can be, because it's a Schedule I.
I think the only
I'm
thing
sorry,
we
I
can
just-
realistically decide right now is whether we want to go to the ballot or have time, place and manner restrictions. We can come back and talk more about what those look like. Are we all for putting this time, place and manner restrictions, not going back to the ballot?
I have a-
Okay,
Question though,
we got 4 minutes.
well, I agree with restrictive, but since it's not federally like approved, is that putting us in a
Conflict.
thank you, conflict?
It didn't when we legalized marijuana.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. I'd agree with Commissioner Webb. It's very similar to the marijuana question.
Okay,
Okay,
Yeah, so then what I would say, as we start doing time, place and manner, like is the case, it'll be an
Come back.
iterative process and we'll come back and talk to you.
we could chew on this for hours. It'll be good.
it'd be like short-term rentals all
Oh,
over again.
oh,
But at
okay.
least now we don't have to worry about filing that.
We won't have to worry about those later. Okay, next is the Commissioner Exchange Program. And
so here's the deal. The Association of Oregon Counties has what they call a commissioner exchange program. I've heard other counties did it. I thought, well, this would be a good idea, because then I can learn about other counties and I can help them want to learn about Clatsop County. So I went to Wasco County. It was swell. Commissioner Chang was there from Deschutes County, because we did a kind of a three-way thing. So I want to have them come to Clatsop County. There's a fiscal note. I don't know how much it is, because it's rude to ask your host, how much are you spending on entertaining me? The way it works is, the visitor pays for their travel and for their lodging. And then the host county gives them presents, like a basket with chocolate and coffee and beer.
Here's a fish and some beer.
It would work for me if we did that, but it is a way that they are here on the ground, learning about us, caring about us. It takes an action of the board to say, do we want to engage in this? I recommend it.
And I think it would be, I mean, I don't think that there's any issue with getting the baskets together and, some of that. I didn't worry about staff and putting too much burden on our team to host.
I'm happy. Cause
But it will be somewhat of a burden for, our county manager and others. That's my only concern. What's gonna,
Well, I
It's gonna look
think
like.
that we will work with Commissioner Thompson and I know that. There will be limits just on timing on some of the things we can do. But we will work with Commissioner Thompson. I'm sure that we'll find a way to do that in a way that satisfies the outcome.
Everybody.
Is this something where you reciprocate to the people that somebody from here has been to?
So far, yeah. So I would like them to come to everybody's district. Because Commissioner Hagee and Commissioner Brady were there in Wasco County and took us. I dropped off the agenda. It went on for days. I'm telling you, they packed it all in. Including the 230 Earth that just signed a $40 million contract to take carbon dioxide out of the air. I want him to come to Astoria. I invited him. I haven't had the phone call yet, but I'm hopeful. But if we could get them around to everybody's district so that I would ask you, what do you want people coming here from there to see? What do you want them to know about Clatsop County? Because I'm sure that you're looking forward to sharing your concerns with other involved commissioners so that we can have.
and real quickly, are they coming as a group or are they coming individually or?
Be three of them, Commissioner Chang,
Oh,
Commissioner
okay.
Brady, and Commissioner Hagee from Wasco. 2 and 1 is 3.
I mean, I have a lot of things in my district that take carbon dioxide out of the air.
Ellie, we can have some fun with this and be good. And
That's true. It's not.
public relations.
Okay, yeah, sounds
That's a good,
Okay.
thank you.
It's good value.
Oh, watching what Jim's gonna come and take us there.
That owl was noisy.
I hate how it watches Jeremy move.
It's kind of creepy.
I know.
Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Clerk of the Board, can we have the roll call?
Chair Quayla,
Here.
Vice Chair Banks,
Here.
Commissioner Torioka,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here,
Commissioner Thompson.
I'm here.
All right, thank you, and welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and move on to the agenda approval. We had an opportunity to review the agenda during our work session. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to approve. Oh.
Moved and seconded to
Do we
approve.
want to add an item to our agenda this evening?
I can go ahead and raise it during commissioner comments, I
Okay,
believe, so.
perfect.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. First item is a proclamation for the United States Coast Guard Month. And Commander Jeffrey Salin, did I say it right? Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us. This is my executive officer, Steve Becker, and I appreciate the opportunity to address.
Yeah, welcome to you both.
I've got a quick statement here, so just to go over the Coast Guard. We've got a long history here in Clatsop County dating back to the late 1800s with the U.S. Lighthouse Service and the U.S. Life Saving Service, both predecessors of today's Coast Guard. The recent commissioning of the Coast Guard cutter David Duran marked the beginning of the fast response cutter operations here in Clatsop County. With the arrival of the Coast Guard cutter Florence Finch scheduled for September of '24 and the Coast Guard cutter Jeffrey Palazzo scheduled for October of 2026, it'll bring us to a full complement of 3 regional assets here in the county. The Coast Guard is currently constructing a new pier on East Tongue Point as a permanent home port for these 3 cutters, and plans include further construction of a support building there over the next 3 years. Also, the Air Station in Warrenton is gain a 4th and possibly a 5th aircraft, supporting Jayhawk search and rescue operations in Oregon and Washington. As supportability of the H-65 Dolphin aircraft in Port Angeles and North Bend comes to an end, it becomes more important. Long-term, the Coast Guard is also conducting a home porting feasibility study for 2 360-foot offshore patrol cutters that may be stationed here in Astoria. This is one of 5 potential West Coast home ports. If this comes to fruition, the service's active duty presence here in Astoria specifically, but in Clatsop County, could potentially double over the next 10 to 15 years. We truly look forward to working to achieve common goals for the future of Clatsop County and the Coast Guard community we represent here today.
Thank you very much, Captain. What is Mayor, Commander, well, Captain Manor?
Last one was the captain.
Captain, okay. I think that, what is Mayor Willis Van Dusen used to say, we like the armed forces, but we love the Coast Guard. And
We love the Navy, but, I mean, we like the Navy, we love the Coast Guard.
We love the Coast Guard.
Mr. Chair, do we want to submit a letter in support of this effort or otherwise engage to support that? Because I'm very interested in the growth and supporting that with Representative Bonamici.
Yeah, we certainly want to do whatever we can to help your efforts. Yep. Any other comments, questions? Are we ready for a motion, Commissioner Webb?
Ready for a motion. I move that we approve the resolution and order proclaiming August 2024 as United States Coast Guard Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming August 4 as United States Coast Guard Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming August to be United States Coast Guard Month, whereas August 4th, 2024 marks the 234th birthday of the United States Coast Guard, and whereas the Coast Guard is one of the oldest organizations of the federal government, established in 1790, and whereas the citizens of Clatsop County, Oregon, share a rich history with the United States Coast Guard and have provided a home for the Coast Guard since 1915, and whereas Clatsop County is part of the United States Coast Guard 13th District, Sector Columbia River, and whereas the United States Coast Guard has operations in Astoria and Warrenton, and whereas the designation of the city of Astoria in Clatsop County as a Coast Guard city renewed in 2021, And whereas we are stronger because of the dedication and support we receive from the United States Coast Guard. And whereas the men and women of the Coast Guard contribute many intangible benefits to the local community, in addition to the services they provide. They are our neighbors, our friends, as well as role models and mentors for our young people. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners wishes the United States Coast Guard a happy 234th birthday and does hereby proclaim August 2024 as the United States Coast Guard Month in Clatsop County, and invites all community members to join in the observance, honoring the dedication and service of the men and women in the United States Coast Guard in our community. Dated this 24th day of July, 2024, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners. Thank you very much, Ben. Appreciate you being.
Very much appreciated.
Thanks for all you do.
And if we could get a photo opportunity.
Oh, yes.
Down below is usually where you. Oh. Should have pulled those blue cards.
Thanks for coming. Okay.
Oh, we had to come back to work. Oh, goodness.
Well, that was great.
That was.
Okay, next is business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except for public hearing or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public that have signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
All right, and I think we just have someone that would like to speak in person. Okay.
Hi, Council, Mary Ang. So nice to be here. I just wanted to pay a homage to the Americans with Disability Act. I laud the hard work of Joan Herman working towards Americans with Disabilities adherence in the Astoria Public Library. I think sometimes disability rights are not clear and apparent to you till you suffer from some type of disability. There are so many invisible disabilities out there. I also want to encourage our community to have sensitivity and kindness to people experiencing sexual assault. Women experiencing sexual assault often may find a greater sympathy with a female officer. We have very few female officers in Astoria PD. I know of an excellent one in Seaside, but that is no offense meant to a male officer who may have a lot of kindness and compassion towards those issues. I also have many friends who are males who have suffered sexual assault. The issues regarding homelessness are deadly in terms of the types of assaults. There are issues now where women have been charged with misuse of 911 and they don't feel safe to use 911, and they have no one to call for domestic violence that is happening the further and further out into the bushes as the police target and ticket the homeless, and Lifeboat continues to discriminate against disabled, underweight women and deny them food. we need some much more comprehensive services, which are disability inclusive, which are trauma and which help all people heal, and people who are sex offenders or who have violent histories or violent patterns, including the director of Lifeboat, who has a pattern of crime, including firearms offenses, should be made known to the public so we can make precautions for our safety. As a victim of gun crime, I grew up with gun crime and was hit in the back of the head with a pistol in a LA carjacking. I find it tremendously concerning. I should have to interact with such people when discriminated against. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mary. Okay, do we have anybody else that has signed up for public comment?
No, we do not.
We'll go ahead and move on to the consent calendar. We've had an opportunity to review the consent calendar. Any questions? Comments?
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second. Moved to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll move on to commissioner reports and start with Commissioner Toyoka.
Good evening. Thank you everyone for coming. Seems like a week full of meetings this week. Quite a few throughout so far. It's only Wednesday. I've had like 4 or 5 meetings already. Say about the Cedar meeting. That was very interesting. Classic economic development we're talking about within our area. One major topic brought up was there was a initiative petition 17 being floated in the state of Oregon. A group of Californians who are petitioning to have this IP 17 on our ballot, and it's a sales tax. And if you read more deeply, we had it broken down to us, and if you read more deeply, it's a tax on a tax on a tax. So every single step in production and sales and distribution cycle would be taxed 2% all the way to the consumer. So all it would do is make things incredibly expensive, but they're trying to sell it on the petition based on a basic income for Oregonians. Saying it's, $750 an individual is what they're promising through this tax. What they're not saying is that, the revenue they would create out of this, would not cover the tab. It would take billions of dollars from our general fund of the state for the difference. And B, that it is not a dedicated, they don't have to give it to people. The legislation in Salem could actually redirect these funds and do it to whatever they wish. So there's a very dangerous petition going on, IP 17, so something we'd like to get more information on, get our public aware of what it's really trying to do. So we don't want something bad like that to happen to us. It was very interesting that people don't understand we already pay a sales tax, and we have sales tax in Oregon already on our goods. One example is the CAT tax, the corporate activity tax. It's a design pass-through tax. So when you purchase, it's based on gross sales. When you purchase something, you're paying a sales tax on our goods and services here in Oregon already. It's just not stated as a sales tax. It's kind of a deceptive name, but it's still, any tax based on gross sales is a sales tax. So they want to tack on another one, which I don't think is right. We talked about the offshore wind, even about the implications because of the fishing industry and the ecology of our oceans. But interesting fact, the Block Island wind farm out there in the East Coast, 62 proposed turbines out there. They had 5 installed for quite a while. One just failed. And then had debris, they had to close down beaches and they had debris out there and the hazards. But the real thing that came out of it, it was that incredible cost of these turbines in the offshore will never recover. The amount of power, the cost for the power generated is very, very expensive. Consumers paying a lot more money for the power. And the jobs that they say that they promised, or stated that they were going to put into the community, they lost, if they lose 2 jobs, they only got 1 back. So it wasn't as proposed. They didn't get equal or more jobs back that they created through that sector. This hasn't been very good. And the worst thing that I think that applies to us too is that the ecosystem changed, fisheries have changed. So they've lost entire fisheries have shifted because of the harmonics from the turbines. So, you know, those are gonna be longer term studies. But that, I think, even though if it was in Coos Bay, it will have an effect up here to the fisheries and our coastline. So, something that we should all be aware of and keep our eye on this, offshore wind. I know the Salem and the fishing board are, but we need to be very cautious because there are many, many implications down the road. That's all I'll state for tonight.
No, thank you, Commissioner Twig. I'm glad you mentioned that about IP 17, and it is totally funded by a couple of donors from California. It's just very bizarre, and it's wealth redistribution is all it is. Commissioner Webb.
Wow. Well, boy, you're right. It's just been, I've been on Zoom more in the last, I don't know. I'm really pleased, that, we're going to be, hopefully we're going to be, bringing, the Crest in to talk about the work that they're doing. I think there's an awful lot, besides writing out several of our team goals from the state. They're doing an awful lot of work. Their area is Washington and Oregon, but they're doing an awful lot of work in Clatsop County that I would love for this board to really understand, because it's awfully exciting. And we got the bad news this week that we didn't get the grants that we had applied for. But I am so impressed with what this organization does in terms of generating funds. They apply for enormous numbers of grants that they do get. There are members, the county is a member, and every city in Clatsop County is a member. Unfortunately, the port has dropped out. But but there's so much environmental work going on from them that it's so ambitious, and they're trying very, very hard, very concerted effort to work more closely with the watershed associations, which I think is enormous, because a lot of the work they do is in watersheds. Most of their work is pertaining to. And maybe the most exciting thing that happened for my meeting there this week was that I think that Denise Laughlin, the director, is going to finally make me smart on how to coordinate with the Army Corps of Engineers.
What?
And if I can do that, I think I deserve a medal of some sort. But she's very adept at and I'm still learning who has authorities on our river, and who, you know, including the Coast Guard. And it's very complicated. That federal, state, local interface is often extremely complicated. And I'm trying to get smart at it, and I'd like to have her come and maybe spend a little bit of time explaining. Oh, I think that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Bates?
I enjoyed our all-electeds meeting. I agreed with the majority that we should do that more often, get us all in the room and on the same page. I feel like, you know, we'll be able to accomplish more that way, and also combat more in that manner, as long as we are all in communication with each other. Just moving forward, hoping that we will schedule our CFTLC vote for legislation here in August. It's really hard to pin down state agencies and folks for a meeting in order to answer the questions that have been asked. I've been pretty forthright with we need to make sure that we solve the problem for our school, in our schools in our community before I will make a vote, because I feel like that vote has a lot of weight. And so if not all of the questions are answered, then
we're stuck until, they help us keep those schools whole. And I know that Commissioner Scar from Tillamook is on the same page, with her 2 schools in Tillamook. And so we are just awaiting news. I contact them probably almost daily to just see where we're at. And then fair is coming, fair is next week. Thanks to whoever's listening and any donors for our, amazing Nichols, concert that is going to be occurring, and we have some great cover bands also coming in the night before, which is going to be excellent. Warrenton Kids looks like they're going to be doing a midway type fair games scenario down where the old carnival used to be, so that'll be really exciting. I'm hoping that as community comes together, we can replace what the carnival used to bring us, which was people. And so the more community we get involved, and our fair board's been doing a great job trying to get community involved and making this fair a lot of fun for the kids. So families bring their kids in. Going around, taking fair letters around, I've been able to touch base with a lot of businesses. Lums, we were there yesterday. Your folks are so kind. I love it. But the kids have had a lot of fun. And I've seen a number of fair kids going around with their fair letters to all of the businesses. It's just a great time of year to bring everybody together. And so fingers crossed that everything goes off without a hitch. Our new fairgrounds manager, new old, he's a year old now, but he's doing a great job. And I'm just excited to see what happens next week. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Thompson.
Hooray for community building, huh? Good for you. Well, I love the discussion we had in the work session about a variety of topics. One that I'm very interested in is having a commissioner exchange program. So as I said, colleagues, I'll be talking with each one of you so that you can let me know, what do you want these visiting commissioners from Deschutes and Wasco County to see and to know? And I'm hopeful that if we can get a tour of Crest, we can coordinate all that maybe they could be included on that tour. The whole idea is, how do we create relationships? How do we build community with our colleagues, with those counties on the middle of the state, so that when and if we need them, they're going to know what we need and be motivated to get it for us, because we'll do the same for them. So I think that's going to be a very positive development. In terms of who's got the money and who's got the power, Connect Oregon is the place where marine and aviation and port projects come and compete for funding. That's, of course, occurring on the same day as Clatsop County's birthday party. So if I can get it done and get over here, I will, but you'll understand if I don't. We'll see what happens with that. We'll do our best to bring home money for projects here in Clatsop County. The third issue that I want to raise is a very thoughtful one. So colleagues, I'd ask for your considered, not an opinion right now, but as we go into developing our retreat and looking at how we strategically consider what do we do for Clatsop County going forward as a governing body, the issue of the focus of the governor and state agencies and some legislators on DEI, so that race becomes the focus. Of course, race matters. Of course, there are persistent and pernicious impacts of racism. On the other hand, if race is the only thing that matters, we are disadvantaged one more time, because the concentrations of populations that are considered compelling for public funding and public projects are not the people who live in Clatsop County and in many other counties around the state. I've been asking if we can shift the conversation to what the Aspen Institute talks about, which is place, race,
and class. I hope that we can expand that focus and reassure people who are concerned that race will be forgotten. No, we will remember race, we will consider that. But poverty of place is important. Where people live matters. So if we can expand the conversation, if we can enrich it, if we can make it more fair and equitable, I hope we can have that impact on the state agencies, including DLCD and ODOT and every other state agency, because we need to have a level playing field that doesn't disadvantage Clatsop County. Thank you, colleagues.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I would just add that the Senator Lieber and Representative Kropp, Senator Kate Lieber and Representative Brian Kropp from Deschutes County were in town to hear more about the deflection program, and Assistant County Manager Monica Steele was the host and kind of guiding them along the way, along with Sheriff Matt Phillips. But I was so proud to hear about all that we're already doing right in Clatsop County, how ahead of the game we are in our counties. And it was just coordination between all of the community partners that we have, Clatsop Behavioral Health, Community Corrections, the courts. Judge Wintermute was there. They got an opportunity to go to court at the end of the day. But they just marveled about how much Clatsop County was doing right, and they were going to go back and tell a lot of other counties about what we're doing in a short period of time with very few resources. So really appreciated, Monica, your effort with them at giving them the tour around both the jail and then also coming back here to the courts and to the Columbia Inn, which was another great example that we could show. From March to October of last year, be able to stand that up, and now it's a shelter bed that's been at capacity almost ever since it opened. So
We're going to get
some big success, some big success stories that we could brag about. And again, it's really nice to hear from those in the Oregon State Legislature, especially those that are leaders, to say that they really are very impressed with what we're doing. And then we talked in the work session about the coalition, which is a coalition for floodplain. And on this call today, there were about 50 individuals representing counties, representing, as was mentioned, Home Builders Association and realtors. But it's a cross-section, Columbia County all the way down the coast, that are really going to be impacted and are blindsided by what was proposed, what we received on July 15th. So there was a lot of discussion about what the next step is. First step is just to join the coalition. I think we have to do that. I mean, that's a no-brainer. Second would be what type of response are we going to sign this letter in conjunction with all of the other members of the coalition and send it to our governor, send it to our leadership in the federal and state house, and then are we going to then pursue litigation? And that's something that they're looking at. This could be in the form of an injunction so that these things don't roll out until there's an opportunity to challenge some of the buy-off and then also actually challenge the timeline for the adoption. So those are things that are going to be discussed later, but I think the first step for us is really joining the coalition. I'd like to propose that we do that as part of my commissioner. Right?
Do we need a motion?
Yes.
Yes,
Commissioner Webb.
I'm not willing to sign up until I know who the coalition is. I'd like to know who's involved with it.
Sure.
There are an awful lot of crazy petitions going around and
Right.
other things that look great.
We did talk about this at the
Yeah.
all-county meeting with those cities as
I'm
well.
sorry.
So we did spend a great deal of time, and our community development director, Gail Henry, put together a great packet that included all of these proposals. And she got it, I think, fresh from the FEMA director that day. I mean, it was within a day that you were able to put that material together. So we did discuss it. But I'm ready for a motion.
I move that we join the coalition.
Second that. Okay, move and second that Clatsop County join the Oregonians for Floodplain Protection Coalition. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
And ayes have it. Anything else? I'll go ahead and pass it on to the county manager.
Chuck Wheeler, members of the board. We had, Gail and I had an opportunity to meet with the commander and deputy commander of the Army Corps of Engineers. I don't remember what day that was. Maybe it was Tuesday, Monday. Thank you, Gail. It was really kind of a meet and greet, but it did give us the opportunity to talk about some of the priorities for the Corps and how the Corps and the county can work together, processing, processing applications and other processes that the states and the counties have, and the Corps is trying to be creative on how they interface with. So I thought it was a good meeting. I think it was a good start, and I think that we will have ongoing conversations with the Corps, which I think is a big step forward. So that is in the good news category. Tomorrow morning, just want to share that assessment and taxation and the county manager's office will be out at Tongue Point, looking at the progress that's been made with the boat lift. So there was an enterprise zone application, so we're going out there just to see what the progress is. There's still some final elements to actually executing the enterprise zone, and so part of that is based on the progress that they're making, and also having agreements, formal agreements between HIAC and WCT Marine, who's the recipient of the enterprise zone. So we'll be going out there and meeting with the parties and finding out how things are going. I know that the boat lift is well into its construction, and so should be a lot to see. Another good news story is that we're almost finished with the construction of the net pin piers. And so there'll be some final work that needs to be done, but a lot of it materially will be wrapped up this week, with some few other things that will be following up. But obviously this is huge for the Gillnet, and it'll be a public pier. So just want to share that after much coordination with the city, with their insurer, with all the regulatory agencies, our public works department did a great job project managing this, and it really was a team effort, and I just give all the credit in the world to our amazing public works staff. So that's all I have.
That is the culmination of a lot of hard work and coordination, and I know that Steve Fick doesn't stop. I mean, I don't think a day goes by when he doesn't ask about what progress we've made, so I can't wait to report back to him.
I was going to say, you or me will have to send him an email letting him know.
That's wonderful news.
Are we going to have any kind of a grand opening?
We will have something once we can get all of the work completed, yes, we'll have something. I'm sure the city will. It's still a city asset, so we will coordinate with the city. So, yeah.
We'll go ahead and move on to the business agenda. We have one item on the business agenda, which is the appointment of planning commission members. Page 42, and Gail Henriksen, our community development director. Gail.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. We have 2 openings on our planning commission that, for terms that will expire on June 30th, 2027, that doesn't sound right. But I think that's what I wrote. Sorry about that. It's a 4-year term, so 2028. And we have 7 applicants, and you interviewed 6 of those on July 10th, and we're asking this evening for you to appoint 2 members to the Planning Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Gail. Any questions?
I guess I have a question.
Ms. Webb.
It appears that among all of the applicants, we have no applicants from District 5.
We have 1 applicant from District 5, Nicole Mackey, and she was not present at the interviews on July 10th.
We also don't have one from District 1.
So I guess I think that District 1 is District 5 is such a large part of the land mass of the unincorporated part of the county. I just feel that that's a real, would it be possible to reserve maybe, the addition of one more, to be reopened again, or maybe a month or so? I realize August is a tough month for recruiting, but to just ensure that we really reach out and can do something about this? Mr. Chair, may I?
Commissioner Thompson.
Commissioner Webb, I'm touched that you're concerned for my district, but I have been reaching out. I did have a candidate. There were two. One candidate withdrew, but not in enough time to secure another candidate, and the other candidate didn't show up for the interview. So them's the rules. I don't want to interfere. I appreciate your consideration because it is an important thing to me. When I looked at the makeup of the current Planning Commission, I felt better because I see several people on that who are familiar with the whole county and who are very responsive to concerns and interact regularly with neighbors in District 5, because I want to make sure that District 5 is represented. But I am content to go forward. As the chair points out, he didn't have anybody from his district there. We would prefer to have that, but again, given the makeup of the current members, and I presume the ones who are coming on will be brought up to speed by their colleagues, they will look at the whole county, including District 1 and District 5.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. I agree, and we had a lot of good candidates and really appreciated the interviews. One of them is here. Good to see you. But I do think that we've had a good process, and I want to be fair to everybody and make a decision. Commissioner Toyoka.
And then, anybody else has listened in on the planning commission meetings, my take is that, they all think countywide.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even think district. When if you listen in, they pretty much are all talking about what is best for the county. I haven't seen that as an issue. So when I looked at it, I didn't even consider what district they're from. I just looked at, their interviews, the notes I had from the interview process and all that, because to go by what we have right now, I think they're doing a very good job, and they do think of the entire county. They don't have a parochial interest in, individual districts. So.
I agree.
Well, Mr. Chair, when I looked at the potential applicants, I looked for several things. Since we already have one person, I don't even know how to say Katie's new last name.
Oh, Sidovich?
Sidovich. Katie. Katie C. She's one of our people from the incorporated area. So we have one other slot possible for the incorporated area. I'm looking for some gender balance as well. So when I look at, we have one female, everybody else is male. When I look at who's incorporated, Eileen Moffitt impressed me because I think that her sense of doing research is important and valuable. I think her past occupation as a nurse practitioner could be extremely helpful as we look at how planning impacts what's available in Clatsop County. So I was quite impressed by her.
Commissioner Bang.
Just looking, if we're looking at incorporated as a conversation, only, as much as I enjoy supporting, the female population, as I am one, I did enjoy listening to Sean Wagner, and appreciate his perspective, mainly just because as a planning commission, looking for more development. And we're looking to break barriers and simplify things. And I feel like he would have a lot of insight in the simplification of things, looking at the incorporated applicants.
Yeah, I liked Sean as well. I've known him for a period of time, and he's been in the area for decades. Henry Itica, was another one, from Clatsop Plains, works with Camp Raylia. I was impressed by him as well. So those were two that stuck out to me. Mr. Webb?
Escape Lodging is what kind of an organization? Do they own hotels? Do they development?
Local folks.
But with what?
Hotels, restaurants, it's hospitality.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Toyoka?
I like, first of all, I say, we are spoiled by the riches. Everyone who applied, I mean, but for my process, it came down to when we were doing the interviews, I was kind of looking at different other perspectives and how they looked at development. And then I looked at their background and their application, see what they brought, what depth of knowledge they could bring. And I have three that I liked. I liked Sean Wagner, Henry, and Mark Silver. Henry.
Itica, I believe.
Skip the names, I didn't want to. That's why I said Henry. But those three individuals would be my top three, just based upon the interview and on their application, depth of information and background. Because I do believe we need to facilitate, planning commission needs to look at how to break barriers, facilitate growth within our county. And those three individuals look like they had that criteria that I was looking for. Those would be my top three.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you. Well, colleagues, I appreciate what you've had to say about alternatives. If we talk about Henry Itica, he is the manager of what amounts to a small town. And actually kind of a medium-sized town in Clatsop County, given some training events. Sean Wagner in that hospitality role of management and development. If we're looking for someone with practical experience in terms of building our economy, which is more and more important, I could be persuaded to support those two candidates.
Yeah.
That's my one and two, those reasons.
And didn't you have three?
I had three, but I was Sean number one, Henry two, and Mark three.
Oh, okay.
That's how I ranked them in my.
But we are
two positions.
but we're precluded from having another incorporated person, aren't we?
I have one more.
One more?
We're losing one, so we can add one.
Chris Farrar is actually stepping down, so.
Yeah, no, I'm painfully aware of that. But this,
Commissioner Banks?
I just, looking at who we have, by district, I would say, I did enjoy Mark Stover's interview a lot, but we are very heavy District 4 if we added him. And so I would support a motion for Sean Wagner and Henry Itica.
You want to make that motion?
I move that we approve the applicants, Sean Wagner and Henry Itica, for our planning commission.
I would second that.
I should probably use the official time and date for terms expiring June 30th, 2027.
Actually, I corrected myself.
2028.
It's a 4-year term. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moved and seconded to appoint Sean Wagner and Henry Itica to the Planning Commission for terms expiring on June 30th, 2028. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail.
and thanks to to everyone who
Thank you
applied.
for
and
everybody that applied and interviewed. Kevin, thank you very much.
Yes.
And-
Appreciate-
we'll hope we find another role for
Absolutely,
people.
there are other opportunities.
Don't go away, just find something else to do with us, okay?
All right, do we have anything for the good of the order? Okay, we'll go ahead and adjourn.